It's Monday, December 9th, 2013, and let's talk about what happened this weekend over at xdadevelopers.com. To start things off, as a bit of an update, we spoke last time about how Android 4.4.1 was being pushed out to several Nexus devices, specifically the Nexus 4, Nexus 5, and the Nexus 7. Well, as it turns out, it was only the LTE version of the Nexus 7 2013 edition that was actually getting it. As of this weekend, however, the Nexus 7 2013 edition Wi-Fi version and the Nexus 10 have both received this 4.4.1 update as well. Nothing really yet to be seen or heard about the 2012 Nexus 7, but I am sure it's just a matter of time. The links for those things, of course, can be found down in the video description. You'll find a link to the post which has all of them in one post on the portal. And if you're curious about what's actually new in 4.4.1, because really I thought the majority of the updates had to do with the camera, there's some guys that run a website and it's called Funky Android. This got mentioned over on the portal, and essentially Funky Android uses a script written by JBQ, the former AOSP lead, and it pulls all of the commits that go into AOSP and makes them easy to read in one place. So from this, you can go to their site and you can pull down everything that happened between 4.4 and 4.4.1. And actually, I think somebody mentioned in the comments on the previous video that it definitely wasn't just camera related, that the speaker on the Nexus 5 got a pretty significant update. And one thing that somebody apparently noticed out of all of these commits and all of these changes that came is that two new APIs have been added to 4.4.1 that sort of hint that the Chromecast might be able to be used for full screen mirroring moving forward. These are the Capture Secure Video Output and Capture Video Output. Maybe it has to do something with DRM because of the secure video output, and it might just be available to Google and to OEMs, so it would kind of suck if that were the case because third-party apps wouldn't be able to take advantage of it. But yeah, if you're interested in seeing what all changed with 4.4.1, like I said, head on over to that website. And if you want to know more about the potential change coming up related to Chromecast, there's also a link to the portal post about that down in the video description as well. And now let's move on to some Android KitKat updates. As of this weekend, XDA recognized developer Mikio Anina, definitely going to pronounce that one wrong, has gotten Android KitKat ported over to pretty much the entire 2011 Sony Xperia line of devices. That includes the Xperia Arc, Arc S, Pro, Ray, Mini, Mini Pro, Active, Live, Neo, and Neo V. And additionally, the work of XDA recognized developer Nobody at All should be mentioned in here because it is his 3.0.8 Linux kernel that is being used for this. And it should be mentioned that these ROMs are still to be considered kind of early alpha, kind of not entirely stable, but the grand majority of the bugs that people have found are kind of common. They're things like video recording and HDMI output and FM radio and Wi-Fi hotspot capability. They're things that people are working on. Hopefully it's something that will be fixed in the long term, but make sure to read through the forum thread for all the details to see if there are things about it that are going to be broken that you don't really want to have as your daily driver. It's an alpha, you probably shouldn't be on your daily driver anyway. And additionally, as of this weekend or late last week, CyanogenMod 11 M1, Milestone 1, whatever you want to call it, has been made available for the Nexus devices, although there's a quote mentioned in the post that says actively supported AOSP devices. And specifically it mentions the Nexus 4, Nexus 5, and the two different Nexus 7s. It doesn't mention the Nexus 10, so that's odd. But in that same vein, CyanogenMod 11 Nightlies have also been made available for a boatload of different devices. And honestly, the list of devices is long enough that I'm not going to read off that entire list because it just keeps going and going. If you'd like to know what CM11 Nightlies are now available, you can definitely head on over to this portal post just to get all the specifics. And sticking in that same vein of nightly updates, some more OmniROM Nightlies are now available, specifically for the different variants of the Samsung Galaxy S4, and it looks to be covering pretty much all of them, the international, AT&T, T-Mobile, Verizon, Canada, and Sprint, of course. So if you're interested in trying out an OmniROM-based nightly on your Galaxy S4 of choice, you can definitely go ahead and give that a shot. And while you're at it, you might want to take a look at the next story that came up. The guys behind OmniROM came to the conclusion that it makes very little sense to do the full over-the-air update every time there is a new release, to download the entire thing and have to flash over and everything. So Chainfire has gone ahead and put together an over-the-air updater using his Open Delta OTA technology, and as the name kind of implies there, it's using deltas. It's just using a differential between where you are and where you need to be to get you where you need to be with the latest greatest version. That means smaller file sizes, less time to get from version to version, and hopefully not a huge amount of screw up between versions, fingers crossed there. And keep in mind that Open Delta itself is open source, so if you're not using OmniROM, if you're using a different ROM and you want to make this kind of thing available for your ROM, this is something you can do. You can add it on after the fact. But keep in mind you have to be running twerp on the device, at least the way that it's currently written, in order to take advantage of this, so make sure that you are if that's the case. And the last thing to mention, and speaking of open source, the Moto G has actually taken the world by storm. $180 device that is not a terrible device aside from the lack of LTE support. And in addition to that, good guy Motorola being who they are, they've gone ahead and released open source files for the Moto G. So if you ever wanted to know more about what makes the Moto G tick, you can head on over to their SourceForge page to get all of the details there. And looking at my list of stories, that's actually all from me for today. Remember, if you like this video, you can hit that like button down below the video. We definitely appreciate that. Subscribe to receive our content as soon as it becomes available if that's something that interests you. Thank you so much for watching though, and I will see you again on Wednesday.